Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. It is happening. Kilauea Volcano has finally erupted after a longer than normal hiatus. It's been about 10 days in between eruptions. This is episode 30. So what happens is you get these eruptions, they kind of come in sequences at times. And this has been pretty regular because there is a magma chamber down here that gets filled up and then it pushes that magma up. We get these lava flows and then it depletes and then it gets refilled, and this recharging takes about 10 days. Well, after that magnitude 8.8 megaquake, if you're curious about the magnitude, the Russians have it at the lowest as a magnitude 8.4. Regardless, it was a magnitude 8 minimum earthquake. We had a disturbance to this volcanic system because everything all of a sudden got lengthened out. We were expecting an eruption around July 30th. Well, today it's August 6th. Can you believe it? And this is the biggest eruption that has occurred at Kilauea since, because it seems that magma chamber had more time to fill and maybe even got bigger. And so we are right now seeing this live thanks to the USGS. We see here August 6th, and this is local time. So the sun just rose on the big island and we see these lava flows coming out here. And I think there's a few hours left with this, but this is a massive volume of magma. As you can see, the past eruptions have been kind of these fountaining events, though episode 29 was also a higher volume, less height eruption in terms of its characteristics. But this one is really high volume, and we still have a lot of this crater which collapsed in 2018 to fill up. But I've been wanting to watch this 30th episode, been waiting for it. It is finally here. So hello and welcome. We are going to do a fire meditation at the end of this video to help kind of cultivate these fire creative energies within ourselves. And to do that, we'll use our solar plexus crystal bowl here, as well as some tuning forks and probably also our voice with the master frequency of Om. But we've also, in addition to what's happening right now with Kilauea, which is just in general kind of a sign of the fact that there are some changes unfolding across the Pacific region due to that magnitude 8.8 megaquake, we also have been having some solar activity. Solar flares are back. So we've been having this increase in solar flares. This is what I've been forecasting. And we had 3 flares in particular a couple days ago. So it was like a 2.4, and then it was a 2, an M2, and then it was a 1.2 M class flare. And I was like, okay, guys, we're very likely going to see something bigger than that. I think it was leading up to something bigger. And if that launched a solar storm, that would go straight towards Earth due to the location of this sunspot. Well, about 24 hours later, I think less than 24 hours later, that forecast probability exactly happened. And so we had a 4.4 M class flare launch here from 4168. It's been very active. Lots of new sunspot groups, or just sunspots rather, kind of filling in the larger flow of the 2 main cores, kind of spreading apart, tons of shear. And so we've been, in fact, after that 4.4 M class flare, we've had a ton of other solar flares. And I think we're actually building up to something bigger than a 4.4 M class flare. As you can see with our video here, you'll notice it's really going nuts in the past 24 hours. So I almost wanted to make this video until after that happened, but here's your forecast, is that I think that it's a very high likelihood that we get a solar flare or a sequence of solar flares greater than 5 in the M class territory. And I think it's actually quite likely that we get an X class flare from this. Probably low X class flare, high M class flare. That's my forecast. I think that's going to happen in the next 24 hours. So it could go a little further out to 48 hours. But we're just seeing that sort of activity. I mean, look at how it looked before that 4.4 M class flare. It was going, but definitely not what it looks like now. Okay, so here we get our 4.4, okay? And you see kind of that push. Now watch its activity it's just really getting electric. So I think this is building up to something even bigger. Here is that 4.4 M-class flare in particular. You'll see that, and you see that push out of plasma. That is that coronal mass ejection. So that is headed our way, and all of this is converging on the historic planetary resonances that we have on the 8th and the 9th. And they're already active now. They'll be active for some time afterwards. This is really building up to something, and in fact it's been very easy to forecast because it's like we know we have the date of the planetary resonances. The beautiful thing about tracking the position of the planets in the sky and understanding to the best degree possible that we can with our thousands of years of study into this, how that affects us, we can have very clear dates as a result of that. The sun is dynamic. It may or may not do something. We don't know. We have to basically track it in real time, and we don't get much of a heads up as it relates to things like solar flares. Yeah, you can track the solar cycles, but even that's a little bit uncertain on the longer time scales. Like, we don't know if solar cycle 26 will be strong or whether it'll be really weak. We don't. I think it's likely to be stronger than 25, but we don't know. Whereas planetary positions, they're basically set in stone unless some big chaotic disruptors to come in and really shift things up, and that's pretty unlikely. And then things, for example, like Kilauea erupting, or volcanic explosions or eruptions or earthquake activity. These things we can also forecast out a little bit, but really not that much. It's more real time, which is why a lot of you like the channel, because I'm doing these real time updates as this is happening. This is a live feed. We're doing it right now live. So if you like the sound of that, then please subscribe. Again, I'm your host, Stefan Burns. Welcome to the live stream. Geologist, space weather detective, cosmic bro, all that and much more, as we all are. We all wear many hats. We are more than just these labels. We are actually all together combined in universal spirit. More on that also a little bit too. So this planetary resonance sequence is very, very powerful. And actually, you know, let's talk about it now. I was going to cover it a little bit later. We're going to get back to Kilauea and the space weather report to show you the impact of this solar storm, but you basically have the heads up. It's coming in on the 8th or the 9th of August. But let me specifically pull up our planetary geometry. This is our inner solar system. If you zoom out, we have our outer solar system, okay? And you can actually, in this app, you can go all the way out to like the nearest stars and beyond. It's pretty rad. So we're gonna go back though towards our sun, and this planetary, oops, I moved it. This planetary resonance specifically is geocentric. Because on this channel, I track heliocentric and geocentric planetary geometries because they're both valuable. The heliocentric seems to be very good at predicting, or at least giving us a pretty good heads up on solar activity. So that is one area where we can maybe forecast out solar activity quite a ways out. We have a really nice, significant planetary geometry active right in the middle of September from a heliocentric standpoint. So I guess I could zoom to that just really quick. It's right around here. This alignment that we have, see, we have Venus and Jupiter conjunct heliocentrically, and then we have Earth, Saturn, Neptune conjunct heliocentrically. This geometry here in the middle of September looks quite dynamic. So I expect there to be a bump up in solar activity in between eclipses, because we also have eclipse season this September, and then we go into equinox because we have the equinox, the fall equinox in September around like the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So there's a lot of things happening around that time. This is also on top of it. But going back to what's happening right now, back to August 6th, where we are, you'll see this planetary alignment is already active. It just goes more exact. It goes the most exact on the 9th. And as many of you know, we also have every month numerology portals. So January 1st, 1-1, February 2nd, 2-2, March 3rd, 3-3. Well, this is the 8-8 portal coming up, so August 8th. And it's known by many just as the Lion's Gate portal. Lion being an archetypal representation of the sun, and the sun being a representation of consciousness and more. So we have this very powerful energetic portal coming up. A lot of big things often happen on 8/8. Last 8/8 we had a 7.1 in Japan. There was also the fires that broke out in Maui, Lahaina. That was on 8/8, and you can go back in time and actually find quite a lot of pretty significant things that have occurred on August 8th. So it does seem to be a natural kind of energy convergence point for like notable things to occur. But this is the planetary geometry. So we have Mars here, Earth, Saturn, Neptune. Mars being on the other side of this historic conjunction, which is about a 35 to 37 year long cycle. The Saturn-Neptune synodic cycle plays out at nearly this 40-year time frame. So the last one was going back to 1989. And there's a lot of interesting things linked to that Saturn-Neptune synodic cycle. We have this conjunction go exact in February of 2026, but they are nearly conjunct just within a degree of each other right now. And so we see them there nearly conjunct, holding this powerful energy together. We see the Earth in between Mars energizing this entire configuration. If we zoom out, we see, and I've talked about this quite a few times. So if you've already seen this before, consider it a brush up, okay? We have Uranus and Pluto here. They are in a 120-degree trine. So that means that they are sextile to Neptune and Saturn, so long as they're equidistant from them, and they are. So we have this kite configuration here with Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, and then geocentrically Earth in the middle, Mars there at the bottom. So this is a very powerful kite configuration with the outer planets, the transpersonal planets, which speaks to there being very large, significant things unfolding at this time. And the archetypal resonance of this is quite dynamic too. Pluto, power, Uranus, dynamic change, shock, Neptune relating to like the oceans, but also kind of our belief systems, the collective consciousness, Saturn bringing things into reality, maybe also bringing in like a hardship, a shock. This is a Saturn-Mars opposition, which is known as the cycle of woe, because these are traditionally seen as the two malevolent planets, though maybe our belief system needs to be updated a little bit to make these things a little rosier. But this is the Mars-Saturn opposition in their 2.2-year cycle or so. But at the same time as this is the 6 that we're looking at. But let me go forward here, because you'll see here our Sun, Earth, Moon combination, which is our lunar cycle. And this is one of the main planetary resonances, if not the main planetary resonance that we experience here on Earth day by day. It's the orbit of the moon around the Earth. So you'll notice that we are right now in a waxing gibbous phase. Gibbous meaning it's like full and loaded, so it's getting bigger and bigger. Waxing, it's growing. Well, right on the 9th, when we have this actually go exact, you'll see that we have this full moon right here. So there we have our Sun, Earth, Moon alignment. And you will also notice that we nearly have Venus and Jupiter conjunct. And so if we go forward a little bit, just to the 12th, now we have our conjunction of the benefics, which happens once per year, Venus and Jupiter. And Jupiter this time is if you go by Western Tropical, it's exalted. So it's not like we get a Venus-Jupiter conjunction every time when they're in good placements, but this time we do. So the fact that we have this planetary resonance sequence on the 9th here, this big one, involving all the basically transpersonal planets except Jupiter, the big guys further out, Saturn 30-year cycle, Uranus 84-year cycle, Neptune 164-year cycle, Pluto 248-year cycle. This is a big deal. And then we also get our shorter term planetary resonance of the full moon and energy culmination at the same time, paired with this annual Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And if you go by this here too, look at this. Here's the thing, every single planet's involved. If you look at Mercury, you'd be like, hey, what's been happening with Mercury? Mercury, our homie, is he not a part of this? He is, but not in the traditional sense in terms of straight lines or angles. We have to look at it from a space weather perspective. we see the sun here, we see Mercury, we see the Earth. Well, solar wind flows out kind of like this. It has a spiral pattern to it. It's called the Parker spiral. This is one of the scientists who discovered this by sending out some of these probes, NASA and more. So it's actually in a position, just having performed an inferior conjunction, it's actually in a position to be embedded in the solar wind stream that's also going to flow by the Earth. And so while this is unfolding, we're also going to be receiving more of these mercurial energies too, which are very fast, and they kind of like are reformatting things, and they're very mental. And so there's a lot happening here. We did an I Ching reading on this planetary alignment on the 8th and the 9th, and just in general that time frame, because this is a few live streams ago. We saw a lot leading up to this, and the I Ching that we got was shock, or rather it was thunder over thunder. It was thunder over thunder, which is a shock, like some big shock. Of course, thunder being thunder or lightning, you can't get more, and that's plasma too. So plasma over plasma effectively. And then it changed into opportunity and like prosperity, which is very much speaking to this right here. So it's perfectly resonant, the I Ching that we did, ancient Chinese method of divination, with the planetary resonances that we're seeing. And so we were talking about that on the channel, and the planetary resonances, we did the I Ching, that kind of further confirmed these energies in play. And then we also were looking at the solar activity and saw this buildup occurring. And I was like, well, I think that we're going to be seeing more solar activity leading up to this 8-8, and I don't think it's impossible. Actually, I think it's quite likely that we get a solar storm impact to hit us right around that portal to further energize everything. And well, here we see our X-ray flux, which is a measure of this X-ray radiation coming off of the sun. You get more of these sort of X-rays, extreme ultraviolet light rays, and just in general light being produced during an explosion on the sun, which is a solar flare. And then you get those light photons that go out, they hit Earth 8.3 minutes later. Sometimes a solar flare will also launch a blob of plasma out. So we call these coronal mass ejections, but they could be, there's like a dozen ways that you could quantify that with a name. So look at how solar flare activity has been going up. This is that 4.4, and look at the most recent activity right there. Again, I think we're about to have something bigger, but we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe it does die down. You never want to, the sun can't really be figured out, but you can enter into resonance with it and get a better idea as to what is happening. So, but it was right around the 4th where I said, guys, like if this solar storm is going to hit us on the 8th or the 9th, like if the sun wants to do that, it's got to do something soon. And well, it launched it with the 5th right there. So let's look at our real-time, our space weather model rather. This is provided by NOAA. And this is for that coronal mass ejection that was launched. And let me step over here. We'll see that it's mostly going actually off towards the west solar coordinate system. And we just had this high-speed stream there, and then boom, then we get that hit. It's a flank impact, so it's not a direct impact, but we do see that sweep by. And here we have our plasma density graph. So we see that plasma density is going up already because of the co-rotating interaction region, which is a bundle of dense plasma in front of this high-speed stream. And then we see that other bundle of dense plasma, which is that solar storm, sweep by right here. This is the 9th of August universal time. So this is coming in right at the end of the 8th according to their model. So depending on where you live, this is going to come in on the 8th or the 9th. Unless it's a little delayed, and then it'll be maybe the 9th for everybody. But effectively, smack dab right on our historic planetary alignment. And this is historic because you don't get these sort of things that often. We had a conjunction between Pluto and Neptune back at the very end of the 19th century, like 1892, 93, I believe it was. And then you had, for example, 1965, Pluto and Uranus conjunct. They have 1989 through 1993. You had a whole bunch of conjunctions between Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, which are quite significant. Well, 2025 is the year where we have a bunch of stuff happening again. We also had a lot happening in 2020, if you've been keeping track. A great mutation, a Pluto-Saturn cycle, so and then actually a whole bunch of stuff with Jupiter too. But this sequence that we have is really, really significant. So it's been helping me actually to forecast this stuff out, because you see that date and you're like, well, there's probably going to be more added to the mix, right? I don't think the universe is done brewing that stew. And well, this is what we have coming in. So this could miss us. This could miss us. We'll see how accurate this is, but it launched exactly from Earth direct. It did seem to lean more towards the west in terms of the chronograph imagery, but in general, it looks like we're going to be getting an impact from this. And it's not the only thing either. We look at our SDO imagery here. You can check this out. This is our favorite coronal hole on the sun now. Been around for nearly a year, going back to last October. And we see it rotating here in our 211 angstrom view of the sun. So this is a very large coronal hole. We see more of it now. It has partially closed up. It used to be a little bit thicker and further to the south, but we see that it's still retaining a lot of its width. And you'll notice it has this trans-equatorial part there, and then this extension, even a little bit going up like this, but that's quite strong, close to the equator, and then this is quite strong, that's cutting through. As I described recently, this is a positive polarity coronal hole. So what that means is that when it hits us with its high-speed stream, and this has triggered, this is on 12 rotations now, this is the 12th one, it has triggered G2 geomagnetic storms on our planet, even though it doesn't have the best polarity configuration to cause a geomagnetic storm. So anything from G1 to G2 is possible from this. It has reduced down in size from when it did that G2 storm, but all of these things are possible. This is the coronal hole, though, that's been loading our Earth with energy for 12 rotations now. So nearly a year, going back to October again, so about 10 months. What we see is that these coronal holes, the big ones, if they load the Earth for a long time with energy due to their high-speed stream impacts, that can trigger significant earthquakes. And those are the dynamics that unfolded before the Great Tohoku earthquake, March 11th, 2011, also before the Sumatra earthquake, that was December 26, 2004. Great Tohoku earthquake, magnitude 9.1. Sumatra earthquake, magnitude 9. This magnitude 8.8 is the 6th strongest earthquake ever observed with modern seismological data recording methods and such. So very powerful earthquake. And we had this space weather conditions basically in front of us. I read the research. We were watching the sun. We knew that there was a connection. I started putting out updates saying, guys, we're probably due for a megaquake. And then as we got closer, and I was also just feeling something with my gut. As we got closer and closer to that gut feeling, I put out more updates on that, and boom, we had that megaquake. So this is what we track on the channel. We do our best to look at things from a completely open perspective without any bias. Some people are super biased and they only believe the modern mainstream science. Other people are like, we're going to discount all of that, only believe all this other stuff here where there's some good things, but there's also a lot of nonsense. There's nonsense in both. We just try to pull the good things from both. I'm not at all, I don't care about this side or that side. I want the most accurate info that is going to give us the best idea of what's actually happening on the planet and closest to the truth. So that's what we endeavor to do here. But this is coming again. So this will be geoeffective. Let's see where it kind of pauses here on the 6th. Yeah, and today's the 6th. So it's going to start being geoeffective. Yeah, it'll start to be geoeffective right around the 9th or so. So maybe just slightly after this solar storm impact, which is what NOAA is showing with their space weather model. That seems to be accurate. And you'll notice again, let me actually go forward here. You'll notice it's actually quite large. And actually look at this. We get this second trans-equatorial part converging to this little extension up there. So that's not the strongest, but it'll be very interesting to see. We have time for this to develop. It could either shrink, it could grow, it could stay the same, but we have some time, at least like 4 days or so, maybe 3, 4, 5 days. So this could develop a lot more during that time frame. We'll see. That would give us 2 strong back-to-back high-speed stream impacts. But as I was saying earlier, these coronal holes can have positive or negative polarity. When you get negative polarity, it means that the solar wind couples really strongly to Earth's magnetic field and causes a geomagnetic storm that has a lot of geophysical implications to it. At the same time, it's kind of like a one and done thing. When you have these coronal holes with a positive polarity, instead the circuit dynamics are completely different, but you get really strong Birkeland currents that form. And so it's almost like you're charging up a battery. You don't get strong geomagnetic storms. There's less energy volatility. Everything's more fluid and coherent, you could say, because it's in alignment with Earth's magnetic field, because it's also positive polarity. And that feasibly is pumping a lot of energy into the Earth as it flows down the polar cusp and connects and actually stimulates that entire dipole, which is Earth's magnetic field. The very fact that we have a magnetic field that is generated in the core that goes out to space demonstrates very clearly that there is a flow of energy that goes from outer space to the core and vice versa. It's irrefutable. Just the very presence of the magnetic field, that force vector, right? Preferential force vectors show that energy flows from outer space down to the core of our planet. Question is how much and what configurations lead to stronger energy flow? Well, this 12 rotations now, we've been hit 11 times. We're getting hit with the 12th one soon. That has charged that battery up now multiple times. We've already had that magnitude 8.8. All the volcanoes basically on the Kamchatka Peninsula are erupting. They're going nuts. Now we have Kilauea with its biggest eruption yet in terms of magma volume. And I mean, just check this out. This is insane. Look at how much this is. It's a huge amount. Massive eruption at Kilauea, and we had this solar storm impact with the critical planetary geometry, historic planetary geometry, in just a few days. So then we did the I CHING. It said we have a big shock ahead of us. I don't know what that is. It also said it specifically stated, like those that are able to get spurred into action and not just remain like deer in the headlights, but those that actually can get spurred into it, they're the ones that will have a lot of opportunity come to them. So there's also some beneficial opportunity headed our way as a result of this shock. So that gives me some hope that it's not some terrible thing, which is good. Yeah, and that's the full moon. Yeah, so just, and I said this earlier, but HDB, that is also the full moon. So again, there's a lot that's happening at this moment in time. So before we get into our fire activation, creativity activation, meditation, I want to just quickly spend a moment maybe kind of describing where we are in the consciousness cycle, because all these energies, what they do is they trigger significant changes across the planet, and also they are a pulse that drives, an initiation pulse that drives human consciousness. And there are these cycles of consciousness across the planet. And so I've been reading The Holy Science by Swami Sri Yukteswar, and I think this is a really good book because it's bringing together Vedic philosophy as well as Christian belief systems and more. It really sought to unite East and West. And I just want to kind of describe Kali Yuga and then some of the other yugas, because this is something a lot of people have been focusing on. We're kind of wondering where we're going. And so just a few key passages from this. So there are 5 states of the human heart, according to Yukteswar, and they are dark, propelled, steady, devoted, and clean. And by these different states of the heart, man is classified as evolutionary status is determined. The dark heart is the state of the heart where man misconceives. He thinks that this gross material portion of the creation is the only real substance in existence, and that there is nothing besides. Of course, this is not the truth. We all know that. This is effectively pure ignorance. So I'm sure a lot of us know, maybe some of you are like this, don't believe in God or any of these things. The fact that that's actually so common kind of shows you that there are still a lot of people living in this dark heart mode. And it's when, in general, humanity has a dark heart that said that we are living in Kali Yuga. So that's why a lot of people think that Kali Yuga, we just shifted out of it, or we're just at the beginning of that shift out of it. He thinks it happened in 500 AD, which would definitely make a lot of sense if you read the history of 500 AD. So the Kali Yuga, this state of man is called Kali, and whenever in any solar system man generally remains in this state and is ordinarily deprived of the power of advancing beyond the same, the whole of the system is said to be in Kali Yuga, the dark cycle. And this state of man just belongs to the servant class because his natural duty is to serve higher class people in order to secure their company and therefore prepare his heart to attain a higher stage. So certainly a lot of us on this planet are in that dark heart stage. Whether we are in Kali Yuga or not, that's up to you to decide. But the next one is the propelled heart. And so you're struggling to seek truth, you seek out a guru, you appreciate his counsel, and you are ready to dwell in these worlds of higher understanding. So you become a little enlightened, and you start to compare your experience of material creation to experiences that you've had of more enlightened states. So this is like can be in your dreams or perhaps bliss states that you've reached, samadhi or more. And as a result of having some of these experiences, you become propelled to learn the real nature of the universe. You're no longer content just with the gross material reality, and that's the direction that you're moving. Yeah, when everyone is kind of in this stage, then you are moving towards the next Yuga cycle. And I'm not sure I highlighted it specifically. I'm not trying to read literally the entire book right now, but effectively, as you get people refining their consciousness and moving from just perceiving gross material reality to these finer aspects of reality and seeking connection to source God creation, then that propels overall society out of certain stages of consciousness and awareness. And there are different aspects of gross material reality, which is all mana and Kali. And the 7 stages, so you have the sphere of gross matters, the sphere of fine matters or electric attributes, the sphere of magnetic poles and auras and electricities. These first 3 are all connected to material reality. So this is all Maya, delusion, this differentiation from God. And there's nothing wrong with being in that. God created that in order to experience these things. And what Vedic belief is that you only return to God once you renounce all earthly desires. And as a result of that, since you no longer want to explore this playground that is earth or just in general material reality, then you can combine again with God through an ascension process. And that goes from being at the boundary of the material and the spiritual realm, and then you discover Christ consciousness, and through Christ consciousness activating within yourself, you then get propelled into connecting to universal spirit, which is what all of us are connected to ultimately. And then once you are bathed and immersed within universal spirit, then you're actually one with God himself. That is according to the holy science. But then in between the 7 stages, material to I guess heaven or spiritual, you have the sphere of magnets and atoms, which is the doorway between the two. And then you have the sphere of spiritual reflections, which are the sons of God, the sphere of the Holy Ghost and universal spirit, and then the sphere of God, the eternal substance Sat. So that's kind of the stage. And I wanted to point out here, so you have these different, levels. And it's easy maybe sometimes to think, oh, I'm all the way at stage 7 already or something like that. Well, the first 3 stages, a lot of these things that people think is like pure spiritual activation potential, or one with God, is actually still gross material reality. Again, this you have the sphere of gross matters, just the actual 3D realm that we live in. But then once you come into understanding of subtle energy, that's still just the second level of gross material reality. We have this in existence here. Just because you perceive subtle energies or auras or things of this nature does not mean that you are in the spiritual realm according to Sri Yukteswar. That's just a greater understanding of the full potential of material reality. And then beyond that, you have the sphere of magnetic poles and electricities. So what we talk about here on the space weather, like space weather and all that, it's one step closer, but we are still fundamentally, breaking down what's happening in our material reality. It's only once you arrive to the sphere of the atom, and I guess really kind of that quantum realm, that you move beyond that, and then you can start to connect at that point where you activate Christ consciousness within you, and then you actually embed yourself within universal spirit, and then you become one with God. This is all according to that. So I just wanted to share that because there's actually a lot of interesting things here. So for example, when the heart becomes purified, it no longer merely reflects but manifests spiritual light. So if you go through this process where your heart undergoes this purification, you start to enter into those top 3 spiritual realms, those spheres, there's purification process that unfolds, and instead of, you actually start to generate this spiritual energy and this source energy from within you, rather than this being a reflector of that. So rather than being the moon, you become the sun itself, you could say. One of the passages, I thought this was really interesting. I know a lot of you watch this that are really big into the Bible and Catholicism, or Catholic, or Christianity, or whatever you want to call it. John 3:5, except a man be born of water and spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. I thought that was really interesting. Except a man be born of water and spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. And Jesus said unto him, I am the way, the truth, the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So a lot of people, this is why I'm mentioning this, a lot of people, I think, read this and interpret it as Jesus, it's like himself actually coming back and be like, I am back and we're going up now. It's more so rather, according to this understanding, that you have to go through your own spiritual refinement process, except you have to just be only of water and of spirit. Of course, water has all these incredible electromagnetic and quantum properties, and really true health and vitality stems from how you structure the water within yourself. And if you structure it with that spiritual light body energy, and you form this crystalline water body, then I guess that is one of the steps forward into this ascension process. And then as a result, Jesus isn't saying he himself is the way, the truth, and you only enter into God, the realm of heaven, through him. It's more so he achieved that Christ consciousness, and you have to go through that same step to then before you can reach universal spirit, then also God. So that's really kind of what that means. And so we have these energies coming in from outer space, which are more refined, and they help activate these energies. We have these planetary resonances, which bring about these opportunities to refine our consciousness and to propel us on our spiritual life journey mission. And then we also have just a lot of energies right now active on the Earth. I think the Earth herself is really taking these energies in and creating an incredible light energy grid around the planet to help activate other people. Because again, a lot of people are still in that dark heart, but there are more and more people that are reaching these higher states of awareness. They're seeking truth, they're seeking wisdom and understanding, they're seeking a guru. They're spending more time inside rather than externally, understanding that everything around them is simply just a creation, and what's inside them is everything as well. And then seeking these higher states. So that is what we're going to do now. We are now going to stoke these energies within us, these creative energies, these fire energies, plasma, and more, with a cosmic connection meditation. We're going to start with the Solar plexus singing bowl, also play some tuning forks. So I recommend you find a comfortable position. And this is not going to be super long, but definitely recommend you do this. Yeah, and here's one good comment here from Silent Friend. Jesus speaks in parable, not literal. Exactly. Exactly. And just pay attention to your breathing, which draws life force within your body, the flow and rhythm of life. Start to deepen your breath. We have some of the energies of heaven coming to Earth on the 8th and the 9th. You have earth, water, fire, air. Plasma would be the 5th element, the most refined, the most etheric. So we prepare ourselves to receive these energies from the sun and the cosmos. We seek to resonate with them, to activate our consciousness. And to purify our hearts. I want you to visualize a light right in your solar plexus, your sternum, growing, pulsing. Overflowing. From the solar plexus, this is where that lava is flowing out, that magma is erupting, giving birth to new ideas, new creations. We are made of this earthly material realm, but within us is contained a spirit that is eternal. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And of course, each and every single one of us has our level of consciousness. I think it's safe to say that the earth, being much bigger and much more complex, is a much more advanced consciousness than us. And so she too is on the same spiritual journey that we are. All the planets, stars, seeking greater connection with Source. So in this way, we are all connected together spiritually, that universal spirit. So the earth is not seeking to trap us here in material reality. She's seeking to liberate us. If we enter into resonance with the earth, we can effectively proceed further along that spiritual activation journey. She too is seeking to rid herself of density, to become more plasmified, lighter, expansionary. We are all beings of energy. And now with this conduit open, we activate our creativity, our ability to co-create with the universe in a way that is pleasing and harmonious with others and with ourselves. (432 hertz). May there be peace on earth. Amen. Aho. We will close with 1 Om together. We'll do 3 ohms together. So take a deep breath. Thank you all so much. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier, sorry, but Boom Shakalaka t-shirts are available at the website earthevolution.com/store. So these are finally available to everyone. If you want to get your Boom Shakalaka on before the 8th, perhaps, you can do that. But wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. Be mindful of your energy over the next few days. And I would say trust your gut, what you're feeling, your intuition. This is a perfect time to really make a practice of listening to those signals, even if they seem bizarre or nonsensical or like, why would this matter? My experience has taught me that I will always find out later why that made sense. You just have to trust it. So practice that inner knowing and developing that inner trust. And at some point, very soon, I guess we're getting a big beneficial activation and opportunity headed our way after some sort of big shock. So I don't know what that is, but I'll keep you up to date every step of the way with what is happening on this earth and more energetically. So please subscribe, smash that like button. You know the deal. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next video.